Transmitting to you from Old Heart Radio.
Prepare to have your bones chilled and your hairs raised. It's the WacArnold's Brothers Podcast.
Welcome home.
Oh, my God. You know, we've made it all the way to 60 episodes. That's no small feat. I feel like I noticed other podcasts, you know, they definitely post stuff at like slower rates. It's kind of crazy. Like, I looked at like our overall, like the Old Heart Radio overall accumulative number of posts that we've made, like number of podcasts, and it's like it's closer to 400 than it is, you know, 300 really. So it's kind of wild to think about.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, you guys are over 100 on Matinee Edition, you know what I mean? 30 something or however many Coffee and Contemplations, you guys are already at 30.
We just hit UFR hit 30.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Yeah,
it's kind of wild. Coffee and Contemplations definitely slowed down just because it's like, you know, it's just one of those I've like spread. The last handful I've been just like Instagram videos.
Okay.
Where it's
I do think it's cool though, just to have one where you could really just talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, well, it's like, it's one of those, you know, I prefer having like episodes with, you know, where it's like with other people, like Coffee and Contemplation. What it was, it's kind of neat, but it's also like really exposing because you're just like
by yourself.
Yeah, and so you're just like wherever the, like, you know, you steer the podcast is, you know, where it goes, and sometimes you end up like, I don't know, you just end up like really out there, I feel like, or at least I do. I sometimes some of those episodes get in the ranting, you know, territory, that's for sure. But either way, number 60 for the WacArnold's Brothers is
oh God,
I want to say it's a sonic blast of a fucking movie because it's like,
okay,
yeah.
Well, yeah. So Black Roses. I feel like there's a lot of movies in the 80s that centered around the premise of like you know, something having to do with a rock band. Like it was kind of like there's a lot of different movies. There's like Rock and Roll Nightmare, which is actually directed by the same guy that directed this, John Pisano. Obviously, we've already done.
Oh God, dude! Now I'm blanking on it. We referenced it when we were talking about this movie.
Yeah, what the hell?
Oh my God, what episode is? Oh my God, dude! Now I feel like a dingus. Either way,
Rocktober Blood.
Oh my God,
so,
there it is.
So I thought when you picked this that it was going to be kind of similar, and the only real similarity that they have is that they're both movies that have actual members of real bands performing as the band in the movie. So this one has members of people that were in a band called King Cobra, which I had never heard of. There's also the guy, all the performers for Black Roses, bass guitar. Like, I'm not saying in the movie because there's only a couple in the movie, but like that recorded the music, because they're throughout the movie they play different songs. There's like a couple Lizzie Borden songs. There's a King Cobra song, but they made a soundtrack for this movie that had 4 songs performed, quote unquote, by Black Roses. And it's a bunch of different people from different bands. And actually the guy that plays bass was the bass player for Quiet Riot.
Oh shit.
But what's interesting is that the soundtrack came out on Metal Blade Records, which is like super random.
They got like that. They have to be proud of that. Like, that's crazy. That is so random. Like, cause I associate Metal Blade with like actual metal.
Yeah, but for a while, like when they first came out, like Metallica was on Metal Blade. Goo Goo Dolls
was on Metal. What?
Yeah, before they switched and were like super radio friendly, like pop, they were on Metal Blade.
Whoa.
So, yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I did not know that.
Yeah, they started out more like, you know, obviously by the time we were into the music scene, yeah, Metal Blade was, you know, metal and like hardcore and shit like that. But
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
This movie doesn't have any. There's only one person in this movie that I recognize, and we'll talk about that when it gets to the scene he's in. But it's just a bunch of like no-name people that I've never seen in anything else, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but there is some pretty bad acting.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, this. So, you know, we were talking about this a little bit before we hit record, but neither of us fully realized this was a Troma release.
Right.
Totally, you know, is understandable. Like you like immediately get the Troma vibes from this movie after you start it, which is kind of funny, but it's just like,
Absolutely.
like we should have known. We should, you know, a movie about a demonic rock band. Come on, man. Lloyd Kaufman had to get his paws on something like this eventually. You know?
Dude, he just seems
that's
like.
What were you gonna say? I was just gonna say that's the thing about like Troma and Kaufman, you know, like some of the most creative and unique, like I think ideas for you know, horror movies or horror adjacent movies, like kind of came out from Troma. Like they were like doing all sorts of shit.
Yeah, they were like,
you know,
Death by Temptation's a Troma release.
Yeah, dude, that's another one that caught me by surprise. I was like, what? Like, I remember when we were watching that, like, what the heck?
Obviously, they're more well known for, you know, stuff like Class of Nukem High, and obviously, you know, the thing that made them famous, the Toxic Avenger series. But yeah, they really did kind of just span, you know, all sorts of different types of movies, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And Lloyd Kaufman just seems like this super nice, awesome person to spend time with. Like, I used to watch, well, I still do, but he hasn't put out like his output of content hasn't been as heavy, but the Angry Video Game Nerd.
Oh yeah. There's
an episode where he, Toxic Avenger and Lloyd Kaufman is in the episode and just seems like a super cool fucking guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. Well, like very much in his own right, I feel like Lloyd Kaufman is sort of one of those like living legends. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Where it's like, like so much came from, you know, him and then Troma and just in general, like the amount of work, the volume of fucking movies that they made and shit was just wild to think about. You know, especially being like super independent the whole time. Yeah, you know what I mean. So. Well, exactly, and that's one of the things that is like the most endearing about any Troma movie is that, like, to me at least, is that like they, you know, it wasn't like, it's not a fucking, you know, Warner Brothers, it's not a Universal, it's a, you know, it's not a big studio, it's like people just like wanting to make this film, whatever film it is, and so they just like you know, put it together however they can. And
yeah,
I don't know, it's mad respect to like the, you know, almost, you know, DIY aspects of some of the shit that they put together.
Yeah,
but you know, like, you know, diving into this movie, it's just kind of, you know, you get like the kind of classic, you know, like Lloyd Kaufman Troma credits in the front, and then it just like, I think, you know, I always watch these with the subtitles on to capture any random thing, and I love that, like, for a rock movie it opens up with what was labeled soulful jazz music.
Yeah.
And you know, so it's like, you kind of get shots of like people on the city streets, walking around, and then you kind of approach a club and you see some flyers for it, and then takes you like inside the scene of the club. And this is what kind of caught me off guard right away, is that like you see the performers and you see the crowd and everything, but the performers are like straight up like in like
demon form.
Yeah, and like, so I gotta say the costumes are pretty cool for what they are, if you ask me. But like it's just kind of crazy because they just jump right into it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, like you're just like, holy shit, like
yeah, for real. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah,
it's just a really weird opening scene because they perform a Lizzie Borden song, and it's kind of a it's not my cup of tea, I guess you could say.
Fair.
But it's very like, type of like. But yeah, so we get introduced to this like demonic demon band that's playing, and then we kind of see there's this gentleman that seems to be watching the concert from like a pair of double doors with a small window.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. I'm going to assume it was like maybe the guy that owns the venue. I don't know. But he walks in with a pair of police. They haul the guy off. And then next thing you know, the guy goes to open the door, and a billow of smoke like flies out, and then just a horde of demons start bashing their way through.
It's wild, man. It's fucking wild. And what's crazy is like, you don't really get too many answers, but like, obviously the demonic band is like singing to the crowd, and like shots that you get of the crowd, they're not like demons, necessarily. Right. And so when like the doors come busting open, the dude just gets laid out. Like, it's like, whoa, something. Like they transformed at some point, and like, what the fuck caused it? It
does leave a lot of questions.
Yeah, which is kind of an interesting place to start the movie off, I think.
Yeah, because like in the opening, it kind of looks like they're like in New York, which by the end of the movie, like you kind of realize that maybe this first scene from the movie was like what happens after the events of the actual movie, and that'll make more sense after you watch the movie. But it was a super weird place to just dump you in.
Yeah.
Because it starts, the opening credits start, and then we kind of see two Lamborghinis that are pulling it. Yeah, they seem to be pulling into like a smaller looking type of town.
I just kept wondering, I was like, how much of their budget did they blow getting these two Lamborghinis? Somebody was just like, yeah, man, and they gotta be like driving like fucking Lamborghinis or something, man, and like,
yeah, it's a little excessive.
Yeah, sure. Dude, because like you're saying, man, like they roll. It looks like kind of like smaller town. Main Street almost, and these just the fanciest fucking Lamborghinis that you've seen just rolling down the street, and they stop in like the middle of the empty road, and like all these hair metal looking dudes get out with their like huge fucking hair and everything, and
because the first one gets out and we learn his name is Damien, and God, he just looks like a total tool, dude.
But my God, I kept thinking that the entire time too. Yeah, I was like, look at this fucking goon.
He gets out and he's like clad in all leather.
Yeah,
and like he gets out of the car first, and he looks back to the second car and just puts up the devil's horns, and then they just pile out with like a handful of flyers, and you're like, what in the hell is going on?
Yeah, and I have to know that the other standout piece of clothing, like he is in like all leather. I think there's some fringe happening, but he's also wearing like a leopard print like cod piece over the top of his leather pants.
Dude, fashion back then was horrendous.
It's gnarly. Oh my God, it was just something to behold. Really, it was just crazy. But yeah, you're right. Then like it looks like the band or whoever just starts like going out to maybe disperse the Black Roses flyers for the whatever event, and then it takes you like right into
Well, yeah. What were you gonna say?
It kind of brings you right into like breakfast time at some
Yeah,
house.
we kind of like real quickly get introduced to a couple of the like teenage characters that are in the movie, and we don't learn their names yet. But yeah, we see Janie and her family. They're at breakfast, and then it kind of goes into the next scene where a character named Tony is getting woken up by his mom. And then we get introduced to Julie, who's having like a minor argument with her stepdad. So we meet a couple, and we meet some more. Like we haven't met Johnny yet, but yes, we kind of, we don't really know these characters' names yet. But then we go to the school, and we get introduced to the main character of the movie. Seems to be a high school English teacher by the name of Matthew Morehouse, and he's talking about Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass, and asking the class what Walt Whitman meant by "evil propels me."
Yeah, it's to be honest, it's kind of a it's in this scene, and there's a scene later where he, for whatever credit they deserve on it, I'll give it to them. They do this cool like situation with the classroom where all the desks are kind of spread out in this semicircle, and so all the students are discussing. They're having what they call later in the movie a forum.
Okay, yeah.
And through this conversation around Walt Whitman, somehow Black Roses gets brought up. Because
because he asked Johnny for his response, and he talks about how the Black Roses concert and the people of Mill Basin are trying to stop the concerts because they think it's evil.
I think it's like if they think it's evil for some reason, just because we all like it,
Which is, I mean, because it's sort of an interesting like social commentary, kind of just continued into the 90s where in the 90s especially Marilyn Manson and stuff like that, but in the 80s too, there'd be those group of parents that think, oh, this person is demonic and he's gonna brainwash our children and yada yada, this, that, and the next thing.
Well, it's like I think it's one of the things this movie is like directly pointing at, but it's a lot of that, like, what was it referred? It's like the satanic panic, where it's like exactly that, where it's like they're pretending to be devil worshippers, so they're gonna turn our kids into devil worshippers or something. And I think that kind of shit, definitely, like you said, bled even into like parts of our upbringing, I think, where it was like it's still kind of present, and which is crazy. But so they kind of end up having a little dialogue about that, essentially that, and the whole like once class gets dismissed, you see one student in particular kind of stay behind, and as the movie goes on, you sort of, that's Janie, I believe.
Julie,
gosh, sorry. And you sort of like, there's like hints about like their the idea of them being like a little more. So it's kind of like, it's interesting that you see it, like, I don't know, you see her sticking behind there for a second, but then it kind of jumps to what is it? It's like
town hall meeting.
The town hall meeting. Oh yeah, about the Black Roses, and that's right. Like that. This is like the classic scene, man. I feel like that like really solidifies what we were just talking about. Like like different parents getting up to the podium and being like, holding up the record or whatever, and being like, "This is what's turning our kids evil."
This lady named Ellen, is giving this big speech about how they're disciples of the devil, and they're going to steal the children. She calls their music satanic, and then proceeds to read some of their lyrics.
An excerpt from their lyrics.
While this is happening, Matthew shows up, and then the mayor.
So weird.
Mayor Farnsworth comes up and seems to sort of try to, he has an opposite opinion, and he actually has a good point where he brings up how, when other artists first came around, like he name drops Elvis and the Beatles, it was sort of the same thing. When Elvis came around and he was gyrating his hips and this, that, and the next thing, it kind of created a panic. And so he's trying to relate it to that, like saying, they're just musicians, I don't feel like they're anything to be feared.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that they put like a good solid moment of this in the movie, like the rebuttal, and a really strong rebuttal, I think, if you ask me, where it's, that reminder. Yeah, because he lists off like a handful of people. He's like Elvis, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, like the Beatles, and yeah, like all of those, like especially, I mean, you remember hearing about it with the Beatles, like when they first came to the U.S., it was like, like droves and droves of people were just champing at the bit to see them or touch them or be near them, and people thought it was like they must be doing something, like like it's not natural for people to want to follow this group or whatever. But so it's kind of cool. They do, the mayor also calls Matthew Morehouse, like calls him like out, not calls him out, but like, singles him out and like kind of goes like, like what about with poetry and stuff, and like it was kind of like a strange thing, if you ask me, because then like the teacher was like in front of this whole crowd being like, yeah, let's talk about poetry, I guess, like, but shortly, but then it cuts to who is it? It's like Johnny and Julie, I believe. And they're like kind of roaming about like the streets. Johnny's like, he wants to tear it up. He wants to like cause some ruckus.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. So they sort of are like walking through town, goofing off. Johnny, talks about it seems like he may have a crush on Julie. He kind of jokes with her about her relationship with the teacher, and she reassures him that they're just friends and that he has a girlfriend anyway. Yeah, and then randomly Johnny's like, I want to paint the town red. And he doesn't mean that figuratively. He means that literally, because he ends up like going into a lumber store and stealing a fucking can of red paint. You're like, what?
Yeah, dude, like you just straight up like he like is just like he's gonna go just like, I don't know, paint some shit, like literally. It was just funny. The dude's a goon. Johnny's such a goon. But that gets disrupted because Mr. Morehouse hears some commotion as he's walking also about the street, and like he stumbles upon the open can of red paint in the parking lot, and it's just, I don't know, it's just so weird. But he also notices some like he kind of like notices some weird fog, and then like a person kind of come out, like walk out of the fog, and
there's like a nearby alleyway, like a gated off alleyway. It's good. But before, like you said, he kind of sees the smoke billowing and a figure start to approach, but then the smoke gets really thick, and the figure sort of disappears. And as Matthew walks off, the can of paint seems to catch fire.
Like out of nowhere, just blazes.
Yeah, it's super, super random.
There's magic in the air, man. There's then this takes us back to another scene in the classroom, where once again the students are all like sitting around in a circle in their desks. This time they seem to be talking about Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Yep.
And
his message. What is his message of self-reliance? Is the topic this time.
Yeah, and this somehow spurs Johnny to comments about the classic you gotta grab the bull by the horns.
Oh my God.
he's trying so hard to be a rebel. You know what I mean? He's trying.
Yeah, and Matthew has some good like teacher humor where because Johnny's reply is something was like, you gotta be able to rely on yourself and have confidence and grab the bull by the horns. And Matthew replies, well, you know a lot about throwing the bull. but then he continues on with what he's saying, and he pulls out the Swiss Army knife that Johnny had left behind the night before to open the can of paint. Yeah. And Johnny kind of gets this look on his face like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, uh-oh.
Yep, he fucking knows. Can't hide it from Mr. Morehouse. Yeah. And, this, they kind of have like a little like conversation as the class is leaving. And it's just very clear that Johnny has like a problem with authority. You know what I mean? Like he's just fucking tired of it, man.
I forget what he says, but some kind of snide remark to Matthew as he's leaving the class. That's right. Yeah. And then him and Julie sort of getting a little small, like a stupid little small argument because she talks about how she talked to Mr. Morehouse, and Mr. Morehouse knows that it was Johnny with the paint, but he's not going to say anything. But so
cool.
From
cool
there,
teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. He cares about we kind of learned that a little later in the movie that he, seems to care about his students and realizes that, maybe Johnny's going through a tough time right now.
Yeah.
But now it's it's concert time now.
Oh yeah.
And not only are all of the teens and a bunch of different teens from the school in attendance, but there's also Matthew's there, the mayor's there, and all of the like parents that are on the city hall council seem to be there as well.
Oh yeah. I think the mayor has this random line. He says, like in reference to the crowd, he's like, "There's brats of all ages."
Definitely.
So eventually, like the Black Roses take the stage and they look very like toned down, we'll say.
That's a good way to put it. That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah. And
they kind of look more like
Damien looks like a fucking magician in this.
He oh my god. Yeah.
Like, yeah, just goony. And so they play basically
they don't look like a metal band or a rock band is what we're trying to say. They kind of look more, well, I guess sort of. They they kind of just look more toned down, like maybe like a pop band or a soft rock band, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like they're there to make you swoon. And so they basically, and that's kind of what happens. Oh
yeah, real quick. When douchey Damien steps on stage, he has a black rose. He kisses it and tosses it, and Julie catches it.
The kiss was what got me.
Yeah.
Just so fucking it's just so cheesy. And then like, dude, like the performance itself is just, the kids are all bopping with it, but like, holy cow, man, like it is so fucking cheeseball. Like,
yeah, it's apparently a song. I forget who they said sings the song, but it's called "We're on Our Way to Paradise." It's pretty rough.
Yeah.
My hometown.
Oh God. But it's like enough to sedate the parents though, and that's kind of the thing. God. Like, so like, it's weird because you're watching it and you're like, okay, is this really what they are? But it becomes clear that it's they're basically just putting on a show for, them to be like to be accepted,
It kind of reminds me of like I had situations like this, back in like the high school partying days, where like the parents would be there for a little bit, and it would just be like you're just sitting watching a movie, and then as soon as the parents leave, you're busting out the beer and the joints. You're just, you know what I mean? It's like
totally, dude. It's like, you're just like, no, everything's cool. We're just hanging. Appreciate it. Maybe ice cream later.
Yeah, like you said, it sort of like eases the tension of Ellen, who was like so strongly against this, and she seems to think, that there's no real harm here. Yeah. So all of the because Matthew and the mayor leave to go get a beer, it seems, and everyone else, all the other parents, get up and leave at the same time. And Matthew like stops and does a double take as he's leaving. But yeah, so all the parents leave, and then
it goes dark, man. And this is so fucking great. Of
course,
dude. It goes dark, and then boom, stage lights back up, and everybody's, douchey Damien looked like Rod Stewart before, but now he's Rod Stewart in like black leather, like,
Oh my god, dude, what he's wearing! Oh,
it's so bad, dude. He's got like a leather top that is just like a couple of straps and like an X that like crosses, just like his nips are blasted. Dude, like,
yeah, he looks like he should be in like a BDSM like porn. Oh my god,
he's so goon. He's such a fucking goon.
Yeah. And then they start playing a song called Rock Invasion.
Yeah, dude, and the kids fucking love it, man. They're going
ape.
hard now.
Yeah, they're going ape.
Yeah, dude.
My god!
But then it's kind of, so you it's kind of a little bit of a performance. You see lots of stage shots. You see the crowd, and then it drifts into the next day back in class, and all the kids just look dog fucking tired. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And there's something wrong there.
100%. They just seem very like disconnected from reality, sort of. Just real like despondent, like they're not, like they'd rather be anywhere in the world. Matthew tries calling on them to have a discussion, and they're kind of quiet, and Tony ends up getting sort of upset. He makes some sort of line about, well, what are some guys that are talking about literature, how they're going to help me with what's going on in my life? You know what I mean?
Which, I think it's the struggle of probably being a high school teacher. Kids got shit going on. You're trying to make them like understand that this stuff is important, and to a degree, So it's kind of like, it's weird. It's weird how like, I think they do a good job painting this like, Morehouse is like he's an interesting teacher, he's there for the kids, I guess. But yeah, like, he keeps trying to get them to talk more about mainly Emerson and Whitman, it seems like, but everybody's just like I said, everybody's just zonked and not really paying attention. Tries to get, class gets dismissed, and he's like, get some sleep.
He handles it pretty well, what I mean? But Julie seems to stay behind again, kind of real quickly. And we learn that she's going to be going to the show again tonight because, if you notice when they put the flyers up, you can see that they're playing 4 nights in a row. And she tells Mr. Morehouse that she's going to go to the show again tonight, and that the band gave out free tickets to 2 more shows to everybody.
Dude, fuck yeah, dude. If that was the case, I would definitely be going. You know what I mean?
I remember when I first moved to Spokane. It was when I was still going to shows all the time. And Andy Card and I want to say it was Bill Schooler. No, it wasn't. Maybe it was no. He was in the military, but it was Andy and I forget who else it was, but they came over to Spokane for a show. It was I think it was the Taste of Chaos tour.
Oh, yeah.
It was oh my god, I can't believe I'm not going to remember who was playing. But anyway, so we went to the show in Spokane and we met this group of girls that had driven over from like Moses Lake or something.
Oh, shit.
And they're like, hey, we're going to, because they were playing in Spokane, and then the next day it was in Seattle, and they're like, hey, we have extra tickets and we're driving over to Seattle tomorrow. Do you guys want to go? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. So it turned into an impromptu road trip to go see the same exact show the next night. But it was actually like a ton. I remember just getting like, it was Emmett. That's who it was. It was Emmett and Andy. And I remember just getting rip-roaring blackout drunk. It was just a wild time. But yeah, we just went to the same show 2 nights in a row. I want to say, I'm really upset that I can't remember who played, but that doesn't matter. But
Well,
I
I remember when Taste of Chaos like was around. It was like they always had a really fucking good lineup. Like every time you saw it, like it was like, damn, dude.
I remember one year it was like Chiodos, The Used, and 30 Seconds to Mars. Yeah, they always had a pretty solid lineup, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, but it's so like, you know, like you find that out, the class gets dismissed, and there's this brief scene where Morehouse is talking to, like, I assume the principal or something, and he's Sam. You know, then they're just discussing like the class basically.
They're playing chess, and Morehouse seems to be upset about that. All the kids can talk about is black roses, and Sam actually gives some good wisdom here, and it's like, you know, things will go back to normal once they leave town, which, you know, seems to be a good level-headed way of looking at the situation, and probably, you know, in any other normal given situation, it would be true.
Yeah. Well, exactly. The hype's there. The hype's real. It'll go away though. But then this kind of transitions to a little bit more interesting scene, if you ask me, because there's somebody like I don't know, selling or records out of the back of their truck or something, Black Roses records, and all the kids are there, you know, hyped the fuck up. And it's Tony, right? The dude in the tank?
Yes.
So Tony goes up and grabs a record. I can't remember exactly what happened. Maybe somebody like grabs it from him or some shit or whatever. But he just immediately decks the dude and then just like starts attacking him, grabs him by the throat, and he's like bashing him, you know, onto the cement. That's the dude, you know, and it just turns into like a brawl. And the third guy comes running up and punches Tony, and then Tony like fucking slams him, man.
Yeah, like he like Ultimate Warrior, just like fucking like picks him up above his head and fucking military press slams the guy. It's amazing.
It was so great. It was fucking crazy. You know, like, so it's like, you know, the kids are getting fucking
they're starting
wild.
They're starting to act a little different. You know what I mean? But it's kind of cool. And obviously, it continues and gets worse. But that's just sort of the beginning. The next scene is kind of interesting though, because Matthew ends up going to the venue and has a conversation with Damien, who you know, in this conversation, Damien kind of just seems like a really nice, normal guy. You know, he's got a button-up shirt on. You can see that his hair is a little shorter, so he must be wearing a wig when he's on stage. But yeah, he just seems, you know, like a nice stand-up member of society.
Yeah,
you know,
it's kind of, you're just like, what? Like, I don't know, because you know, they basically, like, yeah, you're right, like they have a fairly like, you know, straightforward, pleasant conversation about the situation, really.
Yeah, because Matthew's kind of curious as to why they're in Mill Basin. Damien kind of explains that, you know, they wanted to start somewhere small so they could work out the kinks in their act, and then they can score some big time gigs. Yeah. And how their music's being understood. And this is a pretty funny line. He talks about how their music is being misunderstood and how they talk about social and environmental concerns in their songs. I'm like, what? Where?
Yeah, where? Exactly.
Oh my God.
He even like tells Morehouse that he'd be a great agent at one point. You know, it's like a very chummy conversation.
I forgot to mention they're both drinking a nice glass of milk.
That was milk. The other thing, too. Yeah. A quick refreshing glass of milk while dude, there's this great shot though, like it's like a closer up shot of Damien. He's got this like big smile on his face and he just looks so like, oh, he just looks weird. He's just like, yeah.
It's very, because they kind of try, because Matthew leaves, and as Matthew's leaving, Julie shows up, and he kind of gets this creepy grin on his face. But then we get a sort of like one of the first like deaths of the movie, because we see Tony sort of lifting some weights. And this is what I'm talking about. Where this is the only character. Or the only actor in the movie that I recognized.
Same. But what's his name?
Vincent Pastore, and he plays Big Pussy in The Sopranos, which is one of my favorite characters from the very early Sopranos. He died. He gets killed in the second season. Because he's an informant. But yeah, he's the only person you recognize, and he has this dude. He has one of the most awful lines that did not age well at all in any movie, because he comes in and tells Tony that his mom needs help with dishes. He sees that Tony maybe has a fresh earring and says, and these are his words, not mine. He says, "Only two kinds of men wear earrings: pirates and faggots, and I don't see no ship in the driveway."
Jesus, dude, yeah, definitely didn't age well, but it's
this reminded me when I got my ears pierced right after high school. So for the listeners that don't know, I've kind of mentioned it before, but my mom passed away when I was young. I ended up moving in with one of my aunts, and she remarried this guy named Jeff, who is one of the most exceptional people in this whole entire world. He's the coolest fucking guy. He has 2 kids. I was really good friends with his son Travis, but Travis's uncles were sort of, for a lack of a better term, bigots. They were racist. They were racist. They were homophobic. They were sexist. But when I got my ears pierced, they used to work on and drive cars at the Super Oval.
Oh, yeah.
But one of the uncles, when I walked into the shop that they were in, and he looks at me, and he goes, "Them things are for steers and queers, and I don't see no horns on you."
God, dude, no. Yeah, man. I mean,
cringe.
Yeah, dude, I feel that. There's one time I remember I got in the habit of like rocking a purple bandana in my back pocket. And I remember very distinctly this one time at my dad's restaurant when we were like, he was like, he got so fucking mad about it that he was like, "What are you, a faggot?" And like, I was like,
oh my God.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't know, like, at the time I was just like, what the fuck is going on? I was like, were you yelling at me about a fucking handkerchief in my pocket? Like,
yeah.
Anyway,
I remember
some things just don't age well.
Not at all.
And shout outs to my pops.
Shout out to
he's
Dave's
definitely
barbecue.
a changed man these days. Dude, Dave's barbecue, R.I.P., but it's forever in our hearts and stomachs.
I remember going there. I remember going there once and getting that pulled pork sandwich. It was super good. It was just unfortunate because it was in a really fucking shitty place in town. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's what led to its demise, unfortunately.
No, that's truth. It's like it was just, dude. He had some fucking magic recipes, man. But like, it was just the location. Either way, we have to get into this death scene because this death scene is it's just so fucking great. So you're right. Like he drops the line and then Tony exits the scene and I don't know, Tony's dad. What's his name?
Tony's dad. Tony's dad is his credited name.
Yeah. Okay. So TD he turns the music off and he like sits down on the couch across the room and then the music pops back on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And oh dude, like this whole scene is just so crazy. It's so fucking crazy. So he like approaches the record and the record looks all like bubbly and weird and like it's somehow the music's still playing, and even though it's like warping,
Yeah, it's like real distorted though.
Yeah. And then something like pops out of the speaker.
Well, yeah, because he like we said, because it looks like the record is like seems to be like throbbing and vibrating, and he looks up to the speaker. And not only is the speaker doing the same thing, but it looks to have some sort of weird like tendrils that are coming out of it. He gets a little bit closer, and this fucking creature just blasts out of the fucking speaker, dude.
Dude, it's like fucking. It's like I don't even know what it is. It's like I don't know, it's like kind of like a spider. It has like multiple legs. But it's like attached. It's completely attached to like something coming out of the speaker. Like,
yeah, it was a weird hybrid because, like you said, it had like 6 legs. Maybe had a little bit of like it was like a wolf, spider, snake type deal. Because, like you said, it was still connected to the speaker.
It had gnarly teeth, man. Like, dude.
Yeah.
But so it goes right at the motherfucker, though.
Yeah, he fights it off for a second, but it eventually gets the upper hand. It wraps its jaws around his head.
Oh my god, yeah.
But it goes even further than that. Like you think that's going to be it?
Yeah, exactly, dude. You think it stops there, but no. Like it starts dragging him closer to the speaker, right? But like, oh my god, dude. Eventually, like, and Tony's dad's like struggling. He's trying to get the motherfucking thing off, but it like pulls him into the speaker. Like, dude. It's so fucking wild. There's that great silhouette shot of the legs, like, kicking and screaming. Oh man. And then, but it's like as soon as the last foot gets gobbled up, like the music seems to stop, or the record stops, rotating and everything, and it's just like. Yeah, it's one of the wild, man. Like I don't even know. Well,
it's one of the coolest shots in the movie.
Oh, for sure.
And just the way they did it, because it looks, because like the very last shot is just like because like you said, it shows like a silhouette of him getting pulled in, and then you see that it's like all that's left of him is like one of his feet, and it slowly gets sucked in, and you're like, I wonder how they shot that.
Yeah. Exactly. Like it's really kind of clever. Like that, just that last part, this especially the speaker gobbling him up.
Mm-hmm.
But off of that awesome scene, then you kind of like, I don't know, you go to Mr. Morehouse's like, house or whatever. You see him basically like winding down. He puts some music in,
some Mozart.
Yeah, he's a classy man. He has himself a brewski, and he just sort of is unwinding.
Yeah, he also seems to have a picture on the wall of him, Tony, Johnny, and Julie, kind of further driving home the fact that he sort of, cares about his students, but maybe has more of like a friendly relationship with them. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. And this lasts like it's not too long. It just it then like cuts into I think it's like a shot of Johnny or whatever in the fucking crowd, but back at the Black Roses, round 2, crowd's going hey as going ham as Black Roses starts kicking off, and like just these fucking goons, man.
Yeah, because the crowd is chanting for Damien, you know what I mean? And then we see, we get a shot of them, the band sort of backstage, and they seem to be around like a table with a pentagram on it, and it's surrounded by candles. Damien blows them out, and then they take the stage to play Soldiers of the Night. And dude, something so random happens, like
dude, it's so crazy. Fucking bananas,
yeah,
man.
they're like playing the song, and you see this girl, and it seems like a bright flash of light happens on her face, and then she like gets turned into like this like creepy looking like her skeleton face type deal. It's so rad, and then it happens to like 3 other people. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. They're so funny looking, like, and
yeah,
you're just like, what?
It's almost more funny and ridiculous than, I don't think they meant it for that way, but it was like the effects weren't as good as like the demon effects, or it's just slightly comical, and I don't think they were going for that. But you're kind of just like, what the fuck?
Exactly. It's so just like out of left field. You're just like, whoa. I mean, but that's the thing, like this movie, you're just like everything is just sort of at this point, you're just like, when it happened, you're just like, what? All right, man.
Yeah, I guess you don't really like know what to expect, so you should,
but then it like, what happens to it? It's like
Matthew. We go back to Matthew, and he gets woken up by a noise. He seems to have fallen asleep in the chair he was sitting in, and he goes outside to investigate, and the passenger side window in his car has been busted out, and there's a Black Roses flyer attached to his car. He goes to get into his car, and the camera sort of pans down the street, and we see Johnny and Tony standing nearby, dressed up. They're sort of dressed more like the band was. They're in like leather and black, and they sort of hop into Tony's car as well. And then Matthew, we follow him a little bit. He drives through town, and we hear police sirens. He sees a couple guys beating up another guy.
Yeah, dude.
Just kind of like mayhem going on in the streets, essentially.
Yeah, it's crazy. Exactly. And so it's like painting this, like this, chaos is sort of slowly unfolding around town, seems like. And he rolls up to whose fucking house? Oh my God.
Well, it's the mayor's house.
Yeah.
But
he's not there or whatever, right?
Yeah, because we learn earlier in the movie that he's dating this girl named Priscilla, who is the mayor's daughter. He's there to look for the mayor, but he's not there. And Julie is just depicted as a really fucking awful person. She criticizes him for being a high school teacher, and has this awful line. She says, "When I met you, I said, there's a guy who's going to do something with his life. I didn't think it was going to be teaching a bunch of inbred morons the alphabet." Says a girl who says a girl that still lives at home with her dad. You know what I mean? Like, where are you to judge this guy for being a teacher? And he doesn't seem to particularly enjoy what she has to say, and sort of defends his position, and the fact that he actually cares about these kids. So it's kind of like a cool moment for him to like sort of like throw it back in her face. Mhm.
Because you're right, like she's just fucking like she's just a fucking dick. Like
Yeah, even so, as he leaves and she goes inside, and you learn that she lied to him, or from upstairs, the mayor, is like, who are you talking to down there? And she's like, nobody. So you're like, why did she have to lie about, her dad being home? You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. It's just like I don't know. She's just no good. I don't like her.
Not at all.
And then you end up like I think Tony. The next scene's like Tony dropping off Johnny at his house.
Yeah.
Johnny's all hyped up,
Yeah. He walks into his house and his dad's like reading the newspaper in the couch, and he walks to the living room and he like does some like air guitar. Did you notice that? So he walks into his room and he doesn't turn the light on, but I don't know. I had to I paid close attention. If you pay close attention when he walks into his room, there's a Slumber Party Massacre poster on his wall.
Oh dang, that's fucking rad.
Yeah, it's like it's hard to see, but it's pretty cool.
Hell yeah. You're right. Like he doesn't turn the lights on. He just kind of like hops in bed. Well, he gets like undressed or whatever and hops in bed and like lights up a stove, and then
dude, it's so random what happens next.
Dude, it's so random. All of a sudden, just this like naked babes in his room. Like it's all dark, so you can't really see her face or anything. But then she just like climbs on top of him and they start boning.
Yeah, dude, it's super random.
It's so fucking out there. Like you're just like, what the fuck?
And yeah, while this is going on, we kind of go to the Miller household. This is Janie's house. Her little brother is playing. He's playing with some Batman toys, and he also has a He-Man villain.
Yeah.
He ends up throwing some of the toys into the fire. His dad, ushers him off to sleep, and then Janie ends up getting home with her friend Tina. And Janie mentions that Tina is locked out of her house and begs her dad to let her stay the night, and they decide to play some gin.
Yeah.
And then we kind of get some like scenes that hop back and forth between what's going on at that house and what's going on at Johnny's house.
Yeah. It's kind of wild. And there's also like Tony in the meet is also like shown to be like driving around town, just like, like he like it's like shows him like skidding out, and he just like runs over some trash cans and shit. So just debauchery's happening.
Yeah. Because we see, Johnny gets done sleeping with this girl, and as soon as he gets up, she sort of disappears.
Yeah, dude, it's so...
Oh, actually, I apologize. Before any of this happens, like you said, we see Tony driving. He gets home, and his mom is like super upset and is like, where were you? You weren't even supposed to leave home. And instead of replying, he just puts his car into reverse.
Dude.
And so the first death scene was like super over the top, creative, cool. And like, there's a couple really like lackluster kills, and this is one of them, because he just backs into her and he's like kind of like super comically again. She just goes like flying, like sends her flying backwards, and then she's dead. It's like,
yeah,
I don't know about that. If you get like, he wasn't even going that fast. Like, you might get like a couple broken bones. You might possibly get a concussion, but that's not going to kill you.
Nah. It was kind of wacky. And like, so, but that being said, like he does, like he does kill his ma, and so then it's like shit's getting like even like people are getting even worse. And then the next scene is back at like they're playing gin. Janie's no longer in the room.
Yeah, she heads to bed,
and what's her name again? Trina?
Tina.
Tina seems to suggest that they play strip gin.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that's going on. And then, you know, then we come to Johnny and the mysterious lady disappearing on him.
Yeah.
And
it's so weird.
Yeah, dude. It's like all like it's like kind of it's just wild that it's like cutting back and forth through all these because then we have a rotation of like, you know, he shows them playing strip gin and then it shows Johnny again. Yeah.
Yeah, because he pulls a gun out from the drawer. We go back to the strip gin. You know, there's a scene where Tina's taking off her pantyhose. And then Johnny fucking walks up to his dad who's reading the newspaper. His dad asks how the concert was. Johnny looks at him and says, "I love you, Dad." Bam, 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 bam. Fires off like 4 or 5 fucking gunshots. And it's actually kind of a cool shot where you don't like it shows him shooting them, but you don't see him actually getting shot. But it's this kind of cool shot of blood splatter is splattering onto a nearby picture of Johnny as a child. It's pretty grim. It's pretty dark, actually.
It is. Like that one's pretty dark. But the next one is just goofy, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid.
So we're back at like, you know, we're back at the strip, like off of that, which is like we just said, it's like actually kind of a dark scene. If you
absolutely,
you just come back to the strip gin, where you know, Tina's taking off her top, and she goes to like, you know,
straddle
like Janie's dad, and who's also in his like he's in his like undershirt and underwear or whatever, and he just like has a fucking heart attack, like, and just like bites the bullet, you know.
That's what I mean, where some of the kills are pretty lackluster, you know what I mean, like that. As far as deaths in a horror movie goes,
that one's whack, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, you know, we noticed that some of these kids are starting to exhibit some homicidal tendencies, some strange behaviors, you know, so there's definitely something weird going on. And that, you know, continues even further where, you know, we're back at school and it seems like pretty much everyone in the classroom is dressing differently. You know, they're kind of all dressed like you would at like a rock show, a metal show. Janie even goes as far as to, you know, basically ask why they're even studying all these dead writers and talks about how Damien writes rings around them. And then the class even starts chanting Damien louder and louder, which, you know, causes Matt to sort of leave the classroom and go call the mayor. So, yeah, you know.
It's ramping up, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you're right. Like, so Matt goes and calls the mayor and is basically like, shit's going down. Like, shit's getting weird in town. Like, tells him that Mr. Miller's dead. And, like, you know,
Tony's dead, mom is dead.
Yeah, like you got to help me stop whatever's happening, you know.
Yeah. He wants the mayor to come with him to the concert tonight, and thinks they're doing something to the kids. And the mayor's, you know, kind of, you know, and probably how anyone would think in this situation, you know, he's kind of like, well, you know, go to the concert, and if you still feel this way tomorrow, come and talk to me, but I think you're taking this concerned teacher bit a little too far.
That's crazy. Yeah, you're right. He basically is just like, yo, come back tomorrow, which is just wild. If you hear these things, man, like I'd be like, this is concerning.
Yeah, because if you go from this like super peaceful town to over the span of 2 days, you know, a couple people's parents have died in, you know, anyway, it's just, you know, of course, it being a horror movie, you know, there's a character that, you know, doesn't believe, you know, the concerns of someone else and just kind of disregards it. Which we shouldn't be surprised. It happens in, like 87% of horror movies.
Fair enough.
Then we pop to this scene where Janie is in talking to the principal, he's talking about her father's death and about, grief and loss, and sort of suggesting to her, that you should let your true feelings come to the surface and not suppress anything. And then he asks her, what would make you feel better? And she mentions, I just want to scream. I want to scream. So he goes and opens the window so she can do so.
She has like a quick golem, like you remember in like the Fellowship of the Rings when Bilbo Baggins has that like brief moment. He's like he turns into like a demon. That's what happens here, man. She like goes into like this quick like demon mode and shoves his ass right out the fucking window.
Yeah.
And he ends up landing in somebody's truck bed.
Oh yeah, she has a great line where after he falls, she's like, "Great scream."
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, it's just another sort of ho hum death scene. Like I think it would have been better if she would have pushed him out and like he would have fell. Like maybe there was someone below the window, like a trash compactor or something, or a wood chipper or something that he like. That'd have been dope.
Yeah.
If she would have pushed him into a wood chipper, he just gets grinded up and blood blasts everywhere. But
zero blood on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then so she drops that line, "Great scream," and like right after this scene, like you kind of pick back up. So it looks like Morehouse is like he's going out of school. He goes to like the local library, great resource.
Absolutely, yeah, totally.
And he like seems to be looking at a bunch of like books about witchcraft and stuff like that.
Black magic,
yeah, all the classics. And he gets a little tap on his shoulder, and it's fucking Janie and Julie, excuse me. She's like, what are you doing? He's kind of like, oh, I'm just writing an article or whatever. Tries to like cover it up. But you also see Johnny sort of lurking in the background.
Yeah. He's being a creep.
Yeah.
And he asks Julie, what's the attraction to the concerts, and seeing the same concert every night. And she talks about how, she feels like the music was meant for her. And then she kind of makes a good point because she relates it to him, reading Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass over and over again.
Yeah.
And then he sort of talks about, I'm worried about you lately. You've been neglecting your studies, and he doesn't want her to screw up her chances of a scholarship. She kind of briefly brings up Priscilla and storms off, kind of more further trying to drive home the point that, she seems to have some sort of attraction to him. Yeah, she kind of leaves in a bit upset. But at the last, she leaves and exits the scene, and then Johnny starts to follow her. But before he does, he throws up the horns at my god
at Mr. Morehouse.
It's literally like when someone was writing this movie, they were like, what do rock kids do? You know what I mean?
We got to take a poll really quick. What do rock kids do?
Yeah.
This rock and roll is foreign to these people.
Speaking of rock and roll, though.
Ooh, right into a juicy Black Roses scene.
Oh, absolutely. We're back at the venue, and Damien, he's up on stage giving this great speech, actually, which I wrote down so I can read word for word. But he has this like super low, like demonic voice while he's doing it. And this is what he says. He says, "You are the black roses, the flowers of evil. You have been chosen to smite the soil with the sword of pain. We are one with the things that prey, and one with what we kill. The crowd is chanting "Roses, roses," and he carries on with "Victory and I, thou are one." And
Dude.
then, furthermore, he ends it with "Let's make blood sing," and then does like the classic like maniacal laugh. You know what I mean?
Dude, yeah. That's fucking wild, man. Dude's a fucking, like, he, at very least, he's fucking crazed, man. Like, because then there's like right after that, you know, it shows him like the whole like blood sing part, like his eyes are all like white over.
Oh, that's right.
Everything.
Yeah.
And
it's just a cool scene because it's like bathed in this red light the whole time.
yeah,
which is one of my, you know, it's nothing original, it's nothing new. You know, over the years to this day, a lot of horror movies use red light like that, and I just love it. I absolutely love it. But yeah, you're right. His eyes sort of like roll back in his head as he says, "Let's make blood sing."
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when this like, so it's like a super dope scene, and then we jump right into this really weird, confusing scene. So I don't even know who it is.
It's Julie.
Okay.
Because in the next scene you see that she's wearing.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. It's basically just like a scene of like Julie going, like she has like a picture of Damien by a mirror, and you see all this in the mirror. There's all these candles around, and she just basically like takes her top off, starts rubbing her titties, and then like plays with herself for a while. And then
it is so unnecessary.
It's like, so yeah, exactly. It's just like what
was the point? Yeah,
like,
it was so stupid, but I get it. It's the 90s. You know, they already had a couple like quick tit shots, but I'm assuming that, you know, they have to throw in, you know, the gratuitous nudity.
It was just funny though. I was laughing hard about it though, because we just did Amityville Dollhouse, and there's a scene just like that in there, and I was like, what the fuck is this?
I was just gonna say that the obviously the one in Dollhouse is a lot more
a little risque, you know,
and very very creepy.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one is super duper random. But from there
leads to some action.
Absolutely. You know, because at the beginning of the movie, like I said, there's like a quick scene where she sort of has an argument with someone, and you think it's her dad, but we learn here it's her stepdad, because, you know, she walks in, there seems to be her stepdad's drinking a beer, watching TV. She starts rubbing his shoulders, you know, and he's like, well, I forget, he says a line like, oh, it's thank you for doing that for your, or what does he say? I forget what he says, but basically he says something like, that's a great way to treat your stepdad, or something like that. It's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Because we know apparently. Oh yeah, he goes. That's what he says. He says, "You really know how to take care of your old stepdad, do you?" Yeah.
Well, and you know, she doesn't take it too well either, I feel like, because this, you know, she ends up picking up, I don't know, like an ashtray or something.
Yeah.
And just starts bashing his fucking brains in, dude.
Yeah.
Like, quap, dude. And this, you know, we actually get some blood, you know, the splatter in the scene.
Yeah, she gets it splattered all over her fucking face. Yeah.
It's pretty wild, man. And so, you know, the dude's toast, but you know, he's done. And then like it jumps to like the next morning or something, where like, you know, Morehouse is like, he comes running up to Julie's house, and you know, finds her mom there all like, you know, upset because she came home and found his dead body, and it seems like Julie's not there.
Yeah, she's like, he asks where Julie is, and her mom's like, I don't know, but I pray she's all right. And Matthew's like, I'll find her, and leaves. Then we follow up with Priscilla, who, you know, is kind of established earlier. You know, her dad's the mayor. She's sort of this brat. They have a super nice house. So, you know, we sort of see her like leaving like a country club. She has a tennis racket in her hand. She puts a tennis racket in the trunk. She hops into her driver's seat, puts on her seatbelt, and then seems to get startled by. She looks in her rear view mirror, and notices that someone's in her back seat.
Whoa.
And it's Julie of all people.
Yeah, dude.
She makes a quick line about, "Oh, aren't you one of Matthew's students, teacher's pet, or something like that?" Julie just grabs her and fucking slits her throat. We get this actually kind of cool shot where it shows her like start to slit her throat, and then the camera pans out to like an above shot of the car, and you just see the car shaking. And it was actually kind of a cool shot.
Yeah, it is actually really cool because, like not only like does that, I feel like, show you that I think Julie's cutting her fucking head off, like, she's going, but like the shot of her like with the blade on the throat, like it looks really cool going into the neck. It's
cool. It's one of the better shots. But I think that you might have a point where on a couple of these, like they might have like spent too much on the budget, and that's why like a couple of those kills are really sort of basic, if you will. That's the only thing I can assume, because like we said,
those Lamborghinis, man.
Jesus Christ, the speaker death is good. The slit throat death is good. This upcoming scene with Julie and Matt is good. But yeah, I don't know. It seems sort of weird to me that those other kills are like really plain and almost out of place. So I don't know. I have to think maybe it was a budget thing. That's just my guess.
Yeah, I feel that. Well, and Matt like rolls up to somebody else's house. I can't remember.
The mayor's house.
Oh, that's the mayor's house. Checks to see if anybody's there. There's nobody there, and so he does this wild peel out, like Tokyo Drift-esque like move. and he just fucking like guns it and runs it, and this takes him right, back to, I think, to his place where he gets a hold of the mayor.
Yeah, gets like right as he enters his house, he hears his phone ringing. Gets some really unpleasant news. The mayor tells him that Priscilla's car caught on fire and that she's dead. Matthew sort of drops the phone in disbelief, and then he hears there's a knocking on his door. His doorbell's ringing. So naturally, I wouldn't have answered it, but naturally he answers it, and he opens the door, and it's Julie, and she seems to be wearing like a robe. She's kind of dressed a little risque. She tells him that she's brought him a present. Tells him that she's always loved him, and starts kissing him. He pushes her off, and then she has this creepy line where she talks about, "I've taken care of everything. There's nothing left to stop us from always being together."
Yeah, dude, it's sinister, and
absolutely.
So she's got, and then it like just ramps up though. So like she takes her top off and like tries to go down on Matt, and he's like, "Julie, no!" And then he smacks her and get off.
I mean, I would honestly, to be honest, if I was a teacher and a student tried coming on to me, I would do the exact same thing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But what's wild is that like, he goes to kind of like check on her, and she just like all of a sudden her mouth is just like bulging, and then like all these fangs just pop but then grow out of her mouth, and then you see this like purple weird orange, or not orange, I don't know why I said orange, this purple glow like surrounding her arm, and her arm's transforming into this crazy like claw hand thing. And it's actually a really cool shot of the creature transformation.
Yeah, because her whole body like starts turning purple.
Yeah.
And then she turns into this really creepy creature with like a super long neck. I wouldn't even know how to like necessarily describe the creature.
Yeah. It's kind of like canine like, but it's not.
Okay.
It's also kind of, I don't know. It's so hard to describe. Then it has a hell of a long neck though. That's all I'll say.
It was kind of distracting. How long the neck was.
But this Julie monster starts attacking Matt, And weapon of choice in the situation, homie picks up a tennis racket and starts forehand and backhand and the motherfucker whap 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 whap. And,
you know what I love though is he smashes her a couple times with the racket. She starts growling and screeching. She ends up like ripping the racket. He throws it down and he punches her. And we haven't talked about this in a couple episodes, but when he punches her, it has the classic whoosh sound effect.
Dude. Oh yeah, I kept thinking that all throughout. Like the dude. It's so ridiculous.
Dude, that'll never, ever, ever get old, bro.
Oh man, I love it so much. So good.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. Yeah, he from there he gets kind of like backed into a corner. He randomly tries putting a tennis ball into the mouth to no avail. He ends up falling down into his kitchen. He breaks the leg off of a stool, stabs her in the chest, seemingly killing her. But yeah, it is a weight because earlier we talked about the scene where Janie kills the principal. There's like a real quick flash of like demon face. But like you said, it was really cool to have this scene where she sort of transforms into a demon in front of his eyes, sort of, proving that what he thought was going on is real and that, there's something more sinister afoot in this town.
Yeah. Well, and then, just coming right off of that, you see him. Texaco must have had it all back in the day, because you see Matt loading up a tank of gas, and then you see him purchasing like a bunch of sticks of dynamite, or no, maybe they were just flares. Okay,
it was flares. I thought it was dynamite at first too.
Yeah.
Until the scene actually happens where he uses it, but I was like, "What?"
Fair enough.
I was like,
yeah, because it was just like, yeah, I was like, that would have been wacky, but yeah, and so like obviously he's planning on trying something.
Yeah.
And then this leads you to it's nighttime. The kids are gathering at the show. And,
yeah, it's the final performance. You know what I mean?
And Matthew's sort of like laying low, making kind of like checking the scene, waiting for it to kind of be a good opportunity for him to make a move. It seems like.
Mm-hmm.
And he does, he goes inside and like grabs, shows him like kind of like, scoping the crowd. He grabs like a flyer off the wall and sort of angrily crumples it up,
Yeah. This time it's interesting though when the band takes the stage, because Damien is kind of speaking in that demonic voice again. But in this scene, you can really kind of look out into the crowd and tell that like all of these kids are like in a trance. You know what I mean? And are sort of like under his control, because Matthew's able to sort of like sneak up to the stage. Damien finally sees him and is like, "Get that man!"
Yeah, dude. Well, because he walks up there and starts pouring gas onto the stage, and yeah, but I don't know, there's when he says "get that man," he points at him with the horns again.
Of course. Of course he does, because pointing wouldn't have sufficed. He had to, he had to do the devil horns again. But Johnny and Tony sort of like make a mad dash over to him. You know what else is wild about this scene is as they're rushing him up on the stage, you see that Julie is standing next to Damien, and you're like, wait, what? She's alive? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, dude. He like pulls her up from the crowd and like keeps her right by him.
Yeah. And then this is where it gets real wild, because he gets thrown on the stage. The rest of the bandmates like grab him and are huddled around him. Damien has this great line where he tells Matthew that he had his chance, but the kids are now mine, and starts laughing. Then, like I mentioned earlier, where it seems like he's maybe wearing a wig. Turns out that's true. He pulls off his wig to reveal a fucking bald head, starts laughing, and then turns and starts slowly turning into a demon form. Then we see the band is also in demon form. But what's weird to me is that they look completely different than what they looked like from the beginning of the movie.
Dude, that's exactly what I fucking thought too. I was like, so they have multiple forms they can take apparently, or some shit, like, because
either
like,
that or they forgot like what they look. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, because like the Damien fucking like look is so different. It looks like some sort of like, I don't know, like dinosaur human hybrid fucking.
It's nowhere near as cool as the
No, it's so whack.
But for me, it kind of like took me out of it to where I was like, did they like forget like the continuity of like what they looked like in that other scene? For me, it kind of like I don't want to say it like upset me, but it kind of just took me out of it for a minute where I'm like, why couldn't they have just looked how they look? You know what I mean? Like, I don't. But yeah, the Damien like ultimate form is kind of ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Ultimate form.
That's what I would call it. You know what I mean,
dude? But the best part about this is that the kids are chanting "fight, fight, fight" this whole time, and so Morehouse just decides pony up, and they just start going blow for blow. Him and the ultimate form Damien he starts punching him with his classics.
He picks up this like almost like oversized, like hilarious, like looking drumstick with like a felt top, and
there's like a giant mallet for some reason.
Yeah, that's what it looked like, and starts slapping him. The best part, though, is that that this like tussle kind of continues. Matthew gets knocked down. He grabs a flare, and then he gets up and fucking takes Demon Damien to Dick Kick City and just kicks him right in the crotch. Oh my god!
It's so good, dude. But yeah, he like you said, he grabs a flare, and so he just he manages to light the motherfucking stage on fire, and like everything starts going up.
Yeah, and it like snaps the kids out of their trance like the moment the flames go up. And I would say, once again, I sort of talk about how movies bring out different emotions when I don't think they were meaning to. But this is what I'll say about this scene. It would be very traumatic to like come out of this trance, not knowing what you did and having to live with the trauma that you fucking killed your parents when you were like under this trance.
Yeah, dude. Like I like Johnny, dude. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that kind of shit. Like, yeah, but you're right. Like, so everybody seems to be rushing out and like kind of remembering stuff. There's a shot of like the Damien form, like on fire, like waving his Goonie looking arms.
The band is still playing though, like in the background.
And then go down with the music, man. The mayor comes rushing up and like, to Matthew, and he's like, you were right all along. There's a shot of a dude who comes busting out. It's Tony? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tony comes busting out. His one arm is on fire and he's like freaking out, It's so crazy. But then there's like, a kind of like another shot of the band, or like, like especially Damien, kind of like, you can't really fully tell what's happening with him.
His arms are like, his like demon monster arms are like comically long.
Dude, that's what I mean. Like they're so funny looking. Like it takes me, like you were saying earlier, it kind of just takes you out of it a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this kind of it kind of cuts and fades to like a, I don't know, the mayor and Matthew hanging out. Like
yeah, they seem to be having a couple brewskis, smoking some cigars, watching the news.
Yeah.
When a very interesting newscast pops up.
Yeah.
There's a news reporter talking about how the Black Roses are returning to the stage after a 6-month hiatus, and they're in New York to play Madison Square Garden for a 5-day swing before heading to Britain.
Jeez.
you're like, oh fuck. This is what I'm talking about. Where I think the scene from the beginning was like, what they're referencing to here, because at the very, very beginning, it looks like they're in New York.
Yeah.
But
That's a good point. Yeah, it ends with like this.
Oh my god!
News photo of Damien's face. I don't know, dude. It was just like this. Once the credits started rolling, I was just like, "What just happened, man?" Like,
yeah. I think that, and I wish I would have said this at the beginning, but I think that there were some interesting ideas and concepts in this movie, but I don't know, man. I think that it was just underwhelming. Some bad acting, some lackluster kills, some weird like creative decisions. However, I will say this. There wasn't an explosion, so I'll give it points for that.
I was almost waiting for one near the end. I was like, if there's some fire involved, we might get an explosion.
I 100% thought that the venue was going to go explode. Yeah. So I'll give them that. They subverted my expectations when it came to that.
Oh my god!
But yeah, there were some cool concepts. Like I really like the concept of the whole, this band's music is like controlling these kids and they're possessed.
Yeah.
That was a cool concept. Turning into demons was kind of cool. But overall, it was kind of just a sort of a lackluster movie.
Well, I mean, what would you, on the ever-growing rating scale, what would you rate this?
I think I would give it 4 out of 10 strip gin heart attacks. What about you?
Oh, man, yeah. I just couldn't stop laughing at so much in this movie, but because it was just like that kind of bad. But I would say, I'm pretty close to that. I'm like 3.5 comically long ultimate Damien arms, out of 10.
I think probably one of the best parts of the movie is the guy that played Damien. Do you know what I mean? Like he is just over the top, like in the most ridiculous way.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like that was definitely like that performance was one of that was the chef's kiss of the movie for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah. I like we watched some that I'm just like afterwards I'm like, you guys have to fucking watch this movie. This one I definitely feel like, put it on if you want to watch a Troma movie, but this movie's kind of wacky overall. You do have to make a good point though. I think there are some like interesting ideas that I think they could have rolled with a little bit better, or maybe like focused on a little bit more. It was kind of interesting, the like kind of breakdown of the concert scenes, where it was like night 1, night 2, night 3, and so on, where like every night
progressively getting worse.
Exactly. Like that was kind of I thought that was a really cool element that they showed, rather than just like, like one night it was normal, next night it's all fucking hell has broken loose, I thought that progression was kind of neat, but overall though, just this movie, Black Roses. But the question is, like, how do you feel this again versus Rocktober Blood?
I would watch Rocktober Blood again before I watched this.
100%.
That's just my personal opinion.
No, I'm with you too. I'm with you there. Like that's what I was gonna say too. I was like 100%. I would watch Rocktober Blood over this.
Hey, Rainbow Eyes.
Oh no, dude. Oh no.
Rocktober Blood will forever the scene of the guy in like the wolf mask breakdancing will forever be burnt into my memory, bro. Like, oh my god, I remember just being in tears laughing the first time I saw that.
God, dude, so fucking ridiculous. You know, that might be the movie I kick off October with, just to, you know, make sure I get some solid, you know, like energy behind it. Rocktober blood.
Yeah,
dude, that's the thing I gotta start figuring out. You know,
oh hell yeah,
the October, you know, movie playlist. That's always kind of an exciting thing for me to like do going into the Halloween season. You know,
fuck yeah, it is, bro. It's the best time of year.
Oh god, yeah, dude. But you know, watch horror that time of year, but always, you know, watch horror all fucking year. That's what we recommend. Why? Because it's always a good time, whether it's a shitty movie or a fucking awesome movie. You can get some sort of like enjoyment out of it either way, you know.
Completely agree.
Oh man. All right, well, I say we leave episode 60 on that note. We got 61 coming your way, and we're already plotting a couple of in the future special eppies. So
absolutely looking forward to it.
Hell yeah. All right, well, we'll leave it there. You got any last words?
I don't.
Well, then there you have it, you stinking dings. We'll see you on the next one.